Okay, so in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to identify the values of f of x and g of x when we're looking at a graph. Okay, so if we're given graphical information instead of an analytic function, we can still identify the values of a function, but what we do is we just look on the graph. Okay. And so here's a bunch of examples, and the first thing I want to point out is that this shape graph is f of x. It says f of x, and it's got the arrow pointing at this, and so that means that, let me switch to this. There we go. And so, so this graph right here is f of x, and then this graph right here is g of x, because g of x is pointing at this graph, okay? And so anytime we see g of a number, we're going to go to this graph. And whenever we see f of a number, we're going to go to this graph. Okay. So let's start here with f of 1. Okay, so when it says that the input is 1, what that means is we have to go along the x-axis here. We're looking for the number along the x-axis. And here's 1 right here. Here's 2, here's 3, here's 0, here's negative 1. Negative 2, negative 3, okay? So we want f of 1, okay? So we want to go to the f curve where x is equal to 1. And so here we're at 1. We're going to go all the way up. And here's the f curve, and this is the point that we want, okay? And so this is our point, and the height of that is 13, okay? And so that means that f of 1 is equal to 13. Okay, and so let's go ahead and write in 13. Okay, all right, and then this one here says g of 1. So now we're going to go to this curve at 1. Okay, so here's 1. We're going to go up to the g curve, which is right here. That's where it hits it. If we go over from there, you can see that that is 3. And so g of 1 is equal to 3. And here where it says, well, what's f of 1 plus g of 1? Well, we just identified f of 1. That's 13 plus g of 1. Well, we just identified g of 1. That's 3. So this is just asking what's 13 plus 3? And the answer to that is 16. Okay. All right, now it says, well, what is f of negative 4? All right, so we're going to go to this f curve here, and we're going to go to the input of negative 4. So for negative 4, we're going to go over here, and there's negative 4 right there, okay? Only now, instead of going up to the f curve is actually below, down here, okay? So at negative 4, we have to go down, and this is our spot right here. If we go over, we can see that that height is negative 2. And so f of negative 4 is negative 2. And now, we can identify g of, oops, sorry, there we go, g of negative 4, okay, and so it's the same, it's negative 4, which is right here, but now we're going to go to the g curve, which is right here. Instead of going down to here, we're going to go down a little further to here. This is g, and so if we go over, we can see that that is negative 3. And so g of negative 4 is negative 3. So now this says, well, what is f of negative 4 plus g of negative 4? Well, f of negative 4 is negative 2 plus g of negative 4 is negative 3. And negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. Okay? And so that's f of negative 4 plus g of negative 4. Now this says, right here, it says, what is f of, sorry, wrong one. Yeah, what is f of negative 3? So we want to go to where negative 3 is, okay? And so we want to go from negative 3 up to the f curve, which is right here, okay? Now let me draw this in. All right. So here's negative 3. And then we're going up to the f curve, which is right here. And we're going to go over, and we can see that f of negative 3 is equal to 3, okay? So the graph, here's what we're saying, is that the graph has a height of 3 when the input value is -3. Okay? So there's some of this stuff here. Okay. And so f of -3 is 3. We can do the same thing here now with g of -7. So if we go to, here's -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. Here's -7, and we want to go to the curve that's g, which is this curve right here. So we're going to go up to the g curve, which is right here, and that's where it hits. If we go over, that's also 3. Look at that. So g of -7 is also 3. And now this is a great example of a situation where we have a different input, okay, but the same output. But here's the thing. These aren't the same functions. This one is f, this one's g, okay, and so we don't want to mix those up, all right? So now we want g of -1, so we'll go to -1, and look, g is actually passing right through the x-axis at -1. So this is the g curve right here, g, that's g, okay? And at -1, see what's happening here? Right at -1, it's hitting the x-axis. The g of x curve is crossing over the x-axis right here at -1, and the x-axis is where y is equal to 0. And so the answer to this is 0. Here's 1, here's -1, and in between 1 and -1 is 0. And so g of -1 is going to be 0. And now what about f of 0? Here, f of 0 will go to 0, and then we'll go all the way up to the f curve, which is right here, and it looks like the answer to that is 12. F of 4, we're going to go over to 4, we're going to go up to f right here, and that looks like 10. See that? That's 10. G of 4, we're going to go to 4 and up to the g curve right here. We're going to go over, and that's 3. And now the last one, we want f of 4 plus g of 4. Well, that's 10 plus 3. And so that's 13. Okay? And that's just an example. This is just an example of how you're able to read a graph and be able to answer function values.